Alright, making a video. I guess I'll do comments first. I want to get to the two slit stuff, and Piero's made some more comments. They're just so obviously wrong that it's going to be worth noting. But I don't really want to make a separate comments video either. So I guess I'll just see how far we get. Maybe it'll be a 2-hour video. You know, somewhere ahead it should be on the two slit, but we'll see what this part is first. So logical imperialist again, just more bullshit insults. A stroke of genius, all is self-evident now, everything's peaches. Yeah, well, I don't know what it has to do with anything I've written. Do you even know what a grand unifying theory would mean? Yeah, you have one mechanism that is usable in explaining all phenomenon, all force phenomenon, and that's what I have done. So yeah, I mean, I want to get onto electricity, because electricity is basically just, again, a filter. Once you have current going through a wire, it creates a polarizing filter, and it ends up creating the magnetism thing. And what this really comes down to, I got to do a response to Holliday's video too. I don't know, maybe I'll cut this in half. Is that the force has to go through a translator dimensionally. So you have these 3 dimensions. I do have to learn how to do them. Okay, 3 dimensions, and the force has to be applied to something. It has to go from, it can't affect, a force in the same dimension can't affect anything. So it has to affect the perpendicular dimensions, one of them, and then perpendicularly again affect the tangent, the one that let's say it was the one it was heading towards, you know, that kind of thing. So you can never affect anything directly. You're really affecting its perpendicular dimension, and then the perpendicular dimension can affect the now perpendicular dimension that you were after, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's very interesting. But anyway, yeah, I do know what it means, and I don't, you know, what, again, you're not making an argument about anything specific here at all, and it's just brags. So, I mean, do you know how much your farts smell? I mean, I can ask you stupid rhetorical questions, but what's the point? We know you're an idiot. Do you know you're an idiot? There, I'll ask you that. Everything would need to be explicable by it. Explicable, yeah, whatever. And it would have to be crystal clear so the school children could understand it. So you're telling me school children understand space-time? They understand even the two-slit experiment, you're saying, as waves. They understand Huygens. They understand this idea that waves are really just an infinite number of little waves hidden that you can't see. They understand all that nonsense. They understand dark matter. You know, fake gravity stuff that somehow only causes gravity for lensing, but doesn't really interfere in any other kind of way. You're saying they understand all that shit. I'm saying they can clearly understand rain falling, and they can certainly understand photons and radio waves and all these other tons flying around them that they don't even know exist, and that it wouldn't take much imagination to say, what if there was a bunch of that didn't have a frequency? No way to detect them. You know, we couldn't tune them in on our radio, right? But they could still exist, just like the rest of the ones flying right through me right now. What, school children can't understand that, idiot? No, I think they could. I think they understand it a lot clearer than bent time and space. I don't see nothing clear or self-evident in your theory. Well, that's just not saying anything again, right? You didn't quote anything from the what don't you understand? Well, what exactly? You don't understand the idea of an entity, a thing, and then that thing being polarized, or that thing coming at a frequency, and that you would call it a different thing depending on polarization or frequency. Polarization and frequency, photon. Just polarization, magneton. Neither one, gravity. You don't understand that? It's not even that it's nothing clear about it. self-evident. I'm not expecting it to be self-evident, quite obviously, because it's sort of invisible to perception, beyond the fact that you can certainly see its effect. You've got lots of ways of measuring its effect, but yeah, you can't just grab a handful of it. But you can't grab a handful of photons. Well, yeah, you don't understand those either. You think it's a lot easier to understand them as two different waves that don't spread out somehow. That's understandable. Fuck. Anyway. Furthermore, I don't understand it, and what I do understand is a direct contradiction to known facts. Well, again, what known facts? Of mostly microphysics. Well, again, show me the known fact. I've sort of pointed out that most of what you call known facts are made up. Huygens, dark matter, these aren't known existing things. They're just glue to hold your mush together. I propose that when the final theory does get published, it will spread like wildfire. Yeah, well, I think it's just a matter of time. If I get into arguments with physicists and they start saying silly things like Pyrrho, yeah, it's not gonna take long for people to say, oh shit, the emperors really are all naked as fuck, aren't they? These silly people have just been lying because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So they've just made up a bunch of band-aid crap to glue this mush together. Even really dumb people would have to be able to understand it. Well, again, I don't know how dumb. I'm just saying, what dumb people understand space-time? Explain that to me. That just sounds too bizarre to me, that you think dumb people understand it, or dumb people understand the two-slit experiment, since it is that far-ranging and clear. Well, again, you're saying physics has to be really simple. Well, I'm saying it is simpler, but clearly you have to do a little bit of thinking to understand the dynamic. But I mean, clearly I can draw analogies to a school of fish or to a man dancing. So I think they can understand the dancing analogy. If they're dancing as fast as they can and I say, move to your left 30 miles an hour, they'll certainly understand they're not going to be dancing very well. I don't see any attributes of a final theory in your word and concept salad. Well, again, you're not providing anything, okay? You're just saying, I don't like it. I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. You're not giving any evidence of what's not likable or edible, or no Sasquatch identified anywhere here. You haven't explained one objection in this mush you type. Frankly, if you type mush this bad again, I will block you finally, because this is just mush. Your emphatic statements about how you don't like it is not an argument, fuckhead. I mean, really, I don't see any other kind of. If you really had it, you would be able to get a scientist to peer review it. Well, you really don't understand how the process works, but frankly, it's not that easy. Do you know where the scientists are for me to go get them to peer review something? Do you have some lock on that somehow? Because frankly, most of them are in for the money. You know, the publications, they want something to sell. You know, they want a story that's sellable, and the other publications, you got to pay them, you know, which I really don't want to do. But I've already stated that I've only had this theory for months, so give me enough time to bribe a couple of scientists, and we'll see if I get peer-reviewed, fuckface. Even if it were controversial, the math of your theory would give a genius away, and soon other genius physicists and mathematicians would get interested in the theory. So this is all your speculation about how the world works. Well, I don't think that's the way it works. They would quote you, and the audience would grow, and theoretically, well, say if this comes true. So say if this comes true, what kind of crow are you going to eat? Will you just kill yourself in front of me, just so I know you have acknowledged that you're just a useless sack of shit troll? I mean, what's the point of this prognostication of yours? Like I said, the theories existed for months, merely months, as anything tied together with all the little pieces. And there's certainly other pieces I'm going to get, obviously. I mean, I haven't even started to start dissecting atoms, and you know, I just started with magnetism, but it all fits with electricity, so I'm going to have a whole theory of electricity also. So I'm just saying it's just going to keep getting bigger and better. You're an asshole. So now, your theory would be tested experimentally, since, yes, there are experiments that can be done, and certainly rational experiments can be done right now, just taking those lensing images they're calling lensing and recognizing they don't fit any math in the universe. Certainly not Einstein's lensing math. Since this is the litmus test by LHC and every other physicist on Earth, well, again, the litmus test is they're going to be the ones that are going to have, shit on their faces, aren't they? So again, I'm not going to. I'm just saying, as soon as this stuff is tested, I mean, if you really test the images the Hubble telescope is producing that they're claiming are lensing, if you test them at all scientifically, they are paradoxically impossible to turn into lensing. It can't possibly be lensing. Even if you create dark matter, you've created so much gravity that the galaxy pieces would be, the stars would end up moving incredibly fast. Incredibly like the speed of light fast. Is it correct that you would get the Nobel Prize within 2 years, that you haven't it yet? And again, yet is what? I really understand. You think I've been sitting here for 5 years with this theory all written? No, I haven't. I just finished writing the document, for fuck's sake. You're really just such a troll. I propose you are never going to get it. Well, okay, what kind of crow do you eat? I'm just saying, what is your dishonorable punishment, okay, for being a dishonorable, trolly, motherfucking, naysaying, nitpicking, motherfucking cunt? What's going to be your penalty, fuckface? I mean, if you're going to be so bold to say this shit, you back it up with absolutely nothing. There's not a single testicle on the line. You're sentencing me to a lifetime of humiliation as a total failure if I'm wrong, and yet I don't get anything from you, you cunt. No, I want something. I want some blood. Because you're a bastard. You're a motherfucking shitty little weaselly cunty bastard. If you came with an argument, it'd be one thing. You're not making an argument, you're just making insults, you little fucking weasel. And you really should be in some sort of weaselly jail for that. Weasel jail. Have you ever considered the possibility you're just a moron? No, he's not just a moron. He's a fucking cunt. He's a fucking lousy, rotten, stinking, crappy human being that can build nothing, and he can just try to throw mud and poo at other people who are doers. He's a failure. He doesn't like it, and so he's just going to attack anybody who's not a fucking failure. A stupid, ignorant, dumb, arrogant failure. And that's all you are. Like a Pyrrho. Though I don't think a theory of everything will... So let's... Okay. We are at a point at which... he tries to argue that observable phenomena do not exist. Okay, where's that? Where have I argued that observable phenomena do not exist? Again, if you're going to argue the lensing images, I'm just going to keep pointing out you have no rational math to stand on whatsoever. Lensing is not possible in 0.005 meters per second gravity. If it was possible, we could lens pieces of dust, for fuck's sake. And we're not. So fuck you. I mean, I don't know how to say fuck you any louder. Prove that statement. Prove I'm arguing against an observed phenomenon. Something that you have hard evidence of. Show me the hard evidence, fucker. Though I do not think a theory of everything will be very intuitive. Who cares what you think? Obviously you're an idiot. Okay, it's not what Feynman thought. Feynman thought, well, when they do figure it out, it's probably just going to be a checkerboard, and it's just going to be simple little arrows that just move in directions. So, I mean, the god of your fucking phony physics even admit they were probably full of shit. Einstein went to his grave pretty much saying, I don't really understand photons at all. In my humble opinion, well, you don't have a humble opinion. You have an arrogant, obnoxious, douchebag opinion where you're just saying shit made out of nothing. No argument with evidence. You just make accusations and back up your claims with nothing. It will have wave-particle duality built into it, whatever the fuck that is. Wave-particle duality built into it. Multiverses and, all kinds of fun stuff like that there. Yeah, because you're a religious kook, right? Think of planetary motion. Yeah, all 99.9999999% of which is covered by Newton. People believe plants move in circles. Well, we're not talking about what people believe, okay? We know that science has known since Newton, okay, that they don't move in circles, that they, and only in perfect circumstances would they work, can they function in circles. But the obviously the odds are they're going to end up in an ellipse, an imperfect entry into their orbit. Only after understanding the concept of how forces accelerate objects can you really understand how planets move. Well, again, that's back to Newton, fuckhead. So and how am I arguing against any of that, you stupid cunt? And why do I need this stupid little sentence? You think you know more about how planets move than I do you? Is that what you think, fuckhead? I think there are a lot of similarity to quantum physics there. I don't know where you find that. I don't find any, no one's been able to find any of that similarity. That's one of the problems between these two sciences, the big science and the little science, is they can't find any quantum shit in the goddamn big universe, jackass. We get better test data and try to fit the measurements into the mathematical model without understanding the principles that really define the behavior. Well, the point is whatever principles you do have are so poorly defined and don't match the observed effects, and then you just engineer dark matter to fix it. Well, your icons do. Alright, now this fucking asshole. Let's just be honest here. Since Amendment has no problems insulting other people. No, I have a big problem having to resort to that, but the point is who throws the mud first? I mean, you're just such lying cunts, okay? There's nothing in my document insulting anybody, okay, beyond stating simple facts that, frankly, saying gravity makes gravity is a silly thing to do. To say, well, look, space is really, okay, some sort of fabric that I can create fake energy out of by gravity, pushing things down. I mean, it's a silly analogy. To even let one's brain think this crap could even earn a Nobel Prize is like thinking a rock, I mean, this is, yeah, all your opinion again. A rock might stand up and start talking. It's too stupid to imagine. Well, then what's your penance again for being too stupid to understand how you're so completely wrong? And you're completely wrong, why? What's your explanation going to be? Oh yeah, well, it was too complicated? No, it wasn't too complicated. The analogies were too hard to understand. School of fish. There is nothing to support it. Well, except all the evidence, right? All the screaming loud as it can virtual photons created to make magnetism. Yeah, well, they don't have to be virtual after all. I mean, you're just so full of shit. There's all kinds of everything to support it. The fact that it unifies everything, explains everything using one common force. Where's your evidence that it doesn't do that? No equations. Well, again, I've only said the inverse square about 7,000 million times. That's an equation. E equals mc squared. I've mentioned that. That's an equation. And I've clearly just stated any equation that has to do with time dilation, that has a relationship between velocity and the fact that mass, by proportion to mass, okay, that velocity will change the mass. Yes, I voted for that. No evidence of these tiny particles. Again, here's your evidence. The same evidence you have for everything else. You don't have any evidence of a photon except for its effect on matter, jackass. What other evidence do you have of a photon? Have you ever seen a photon? No. Have you ever seen a photon travel? No. Have you ever measured a photon traveling? Have you ever measured a photon any other way by having it hit something, you stupid fuck? Like this pen falling, jackass. Gee, you don't know anything, and you're sitting here just talking out of your ass. You're just such a disgusting fucking piece of shit. No evidence of anything. Well, I think the evidence is the function of magnetism. So if I argue that magnets are polarizing a force, and then I explain how that's why it's an inverse square of the force, that's why the force is magnified, it's because of the polarization, quite obviously, and that's how the force induces electricity. I mean, sorry, but fuck you. I can't make it any clearer. I mean, it's so simple. I mean, you're just being obnoxious. and it directly contradicts observations in the universe. Well, again, show me the contradictory evidence. Show me what I am contradicting. What observed fact am I contradicting? Should have the balls to show the fucking Hubble fucking image that you say is the truth, that it's actual lensing. And I'll point out how, by Einstein's math, lensing in that part of the galaxy would be impossible. Either those suns are moving near the speed of light, or it can't be happening there. That's a fact. How have you refuted that as an absolute motherfucking fact? You haven't. He refuses to accept evidence of general relativity. Again, wrong. I refuse to get into an inane argument. I mean, I can post you the link. You want to go to the website and you go view it and you tell me what the truth is, okay? Let's see, what's it called? It's one of those, I don't even know how to describe, one of those, I should have it here, official website, no, space-time, gravity light, no, the website that has the one that deleted my comments, my question, some force thing or something, I can't remember the name of it. Well, anyway, I'll find the link. But anyway, I mean, so these are real eggheads, and they're arguing about what exactly, what part of the equation of relativity has to do with the precession of Mercury's orbit and the sun, and they're basically arguing over the fact that, yes, there's plenty of ways to get to the fact that the sun has it's the center of gravity of the sun is what really screws up these equations. And so if you establish it as a frozen sun, then you'll get one result, and if you have a moving sun, then you get a different result. And so what does that have to do with having the theory of relativity? It's nothing. It's a fucking equation. It's a relationship, you jackass. And there's clear room for people to have arguments about what it means. And you're saying you know what it means. You know it's bent space. That's what you're saying. You're being the arrogant fuck here. Alright. Evidence of general relativity in quantum mechanics and quantum mechanics. Well, again, what's your evidence of quantum mechanics? I've pointed out, and I will point out more, how two-slit math is not two-slit results, okay? The math doesn't have anything to do with the results. So you can pretend that you have some sort of math that is consistent with the two-slit experiment, but you do not. It doesn't exist. That have been observed for decades. Observed, mischaracterized, lied about for decades. Feynman misrepresented the truth. Every single physicist I've ever seen talk about the two-slit experiment has misrepresented what the real phenomenon is and the actual math. So, frankly, yes, it's just a big fat lie. It's just dark matter mush. They invented a fake little... Look, it looks just like waves, kind of, sort of. Therefore, and look how simple can the fucking pattern be. The pattern is on, off, on, off, on, off. It's got to be like the simplest pattern you could possibly create. And they say it must be water waves because nothing else but water waves could create this incredibly complex pattern of on, off, on, off, on, off. I mean, you know how ridiculous this bullshit is? Again, show me the single slit wave. Okay, show me a single slit wave made in water or any other medium that can have 42 on-off bars in it. Go show me that, shithead. And then tell me you know something about the physics of the universe. To the point of religious favor. No, you're the religious kook, sorry. You're the one with the extraordinary God claim. Space, the magic stuff, creates enough energy to shove galaxies into galaxies. The magical bent space did it. The non-existent force of bent spaceism pushes galaxies into galaxies. Sorry, but if I want to supplement 100 years... I'm not going to read all this shit. If I want to supplement 100 years of physics, you're going to have to do it with something more than a few paragraphs. Look, I'm sorry. You've already said this shit. You've already said exactly the same sentence. This is just such crap. This doesn't mean anything. You keep saying, my burden of proof, my burden of proof. Fuck you. I don't have any fucking burden of proof. You either can be rational people and accept evolution, or you can sit there and keep saying, there's no Jesus in evolution. There's no Holy Ghost. It can't be the truth. We couldn't possibly evolve from a monkey. You can't possibly create an on-off pattern without having waves somewhere. Only waves can do that. And Mendham continually shifts the burden of proof to his detractors as a defense. Again, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, if you're going to counter a theory, again, if somebody says Sasquatch killed Kennedy, okay, I can ask them to say, okay, well, show me some supporting evidence. My supporting evidence for my theory is, as I explained, velocity, inertia, time dilation, magnetism, and gravity. That's my argument, is that this same force can fit the math for all of those disciplines. The relationship math. The relationship math between velocity and a degradation in atomic metabolism, or whatever you want to call that, clock slowing. And when we do, he deletes posts. Well, again, I delete your post because, number one, they're rude as fuck. I have no obligation to be insulted by some rude, obnoxious motherfucking cunt. I don't do this on anybody else's videos. Until I do, you have no right to do it on my videos, fuckface. Alright, if you can't show a little bit of respect, then you can go fuck yourself till dead. I mean, I've made that clear enough. And again, I'm not going to argue your arguments. You want to argue the most complex math in the universe, Einstein's field equations, or do you want to argue the point, which is whatever's in those field equations that has to do with anything, it's a defined relationship between something's mass, something's velocity, some real character that exists. There is no such thing as a space-time numeral. There's no space-time factor. Okay, and if there is something called a space-time factor, if you look at that space-time factor, it's going to have an equation that has something to do with velocity and mass and acceleration, the very things I'm talking about, fucker. So I'm saying there is no evidence that space-time causes any of these relationships or any of these fucking effects. So I will not argue your argument that the math is arguing for space-time. No, it's arguing for a relationship between velocity and the stability of matter. And that argument I have covered, you fucker. I can explain it. Alright, Bowles, rock solid evidence. Well, rock solid. So right there we should just end it, right? He deletes post, belittles rock solid evidence. Okay, so right there, you're out of bounds. Obviously, the evidence isn't rock solid. If you're saying the evidence for dark matter is rock solid, or the evidence for lensing without dark matter is rock solid, then you're a fucking lying cunt, okay? That's all you can be, because you have to know that it's not rock solid evidence. If you think the two-slit experiment is rock solid evidence that photons are waves, because it creates a on-off, on-off, on-off pattern, and that's just too complex a pattern to be created by anything else but waves, then you're a lying cunt, because you can't possibly believe that. You cannot possibly believe that the only place an on-off, on-off, on-off pattern could possibly be produced is in some kind of wave tank. You can't be that stupid. It's just impossible you could be that stupid. Or uses other tactics to claim that the evidence is not sound. I haven't used any fucking tactics. What I've used is a rational argument explaining how I'm really not going to try to tackle the most complex, even professional mathematicians fatigue, okay, going through the 5 or 6 level process required to go through to resolve Einstein's field equations, fucker. The problem is there is only one variable that needs to be true for Mendham to acknowledge evidence, and if it fits his theory. Well, again, this is not the truth either. I'm asking you to provide me something that's in the realm of, tangible evidence, something that's really established kind of evidence. A Hubble telescope image, for example, that actually makes sense. That would be evidence. Do you have one of those? Following the evidence, and again, he holds his own theory to not even a shred of this standard. Again, I don't really understand. I'm saying go ahead and make a sound argument how particles can't be causing gravity, how they don't fit the inverse square rule or something. Explain to me how our matter is not made up of energy and the energy is still in motion. Explain how that can't possibly be true. I mean, you're not explaining anything. You're not making any kind of fucking argument here. You're just fucking making trolly bullshit. You're just naysaying all over the place with nothing. He says that he sees magic particles can look into... He says that these magic particles can look into orbits, etc. Lock into orbits. They're not magic. And I've already explained how gravity works, shithead. Yeah, I mean... I didn't invent the fact. Go ask Hoffladay. He'll tell you. if you put two checkers at a distance, okay, in a field of ball bearings, and then move the ball bearings, the two checkers will move right into each other. That's what's going to fucking happen. And that's what creates orbits, retard. God damn, you're stupid. Without any explanation of the actual mechanics. No, I have explained the actual mechanics. I said this, it's a shadowing effect, okay? So, and again, you know, we're talking about like an electron having, say, 1,000,000 parts. All right, so that's how dense these fields of particles are. And yeah, eventually I'll give you a real good drawing of it, exactly. But I mean, it's really understandable. Like I've given analogies to even like a drop of water, and the fact that once it's established as a shape, it's a little hard it wants to stay in that condition. And once an orbit is established, it tends to stay in that condition because of the even pressure. These are all facts that physicists understand anyway. This is part of understanding inertia, you retard. Alright, anyway. Without anyway, sorry, drawings and saying they do this is not anywhere close to sufficient. Well, it is sufficient if it's accurate. So again, if you want to say it's inaccurate to say that there's that as Feynman stated, the model of particle gravity fits everything. It would be perfect, except it doesn't work, right? And so he had an it doesn't work argument that I debunked. So now it's still perfect again. It's back to being a perfect model. So argue Feynman then. Argue that Feynman was an idiot to think that it was a good model. Argue with any physics teacher today using what's called mock gravity, which is the same theory, because it so well duplicates the effects of gravity. I didn't invent this reality, jackass. The fact that particle gravity explains everything that's really happening isn't my fault, shithead. It just happens to be the truth. There is zero evidence that these particles even exist. Well, again, the evidence is right in front of us. Where's your evidence of your bent space? How did you prove bent space did that? Where's the association between bent space and stuff falling down to the earth? Where is the evidence of this? Where the space, empty space, bent and pushed this into the earth? Where's your evidence of that? Oh, that's right, it doesn't exist. General relativity has been a hotspot for cranks and crackpots, and it's just another example. Don't believe me, here's the random one. I don't know which one this is. I'm not going to these links. Fuck you. I have no interest, again, in arguing. If you think there's some math where the general relativity fact is one of the variables, general relativity fact, and it's not going to be some relationship between velocity and mass and force, then fuck you, you're an idiot. And as I'm pointing out, I mean, the way it's being used is so wrong, because the parabola created by the inverse square law quite obviously is not the parabola something actually travels, because they're gaining velocity through that whole parabola. So the real shape of gravity should be something like this, because once you start gaining acceleration, it adds up to velocity, and your velocity gets higher and higher and higher and higher. And by the time you even get to the strong gravity, you're already moving many times the speed of that acceleration you're going to be gaining. It almost becomes insignificant. It's like when a meteor's crashing to Earth. It almost becomes insignificant that it's going to gain a little extra speed from the Earth's gravity, because it's already moving so fucking fast. You stupid fuck. The list goes on and on. Well, again, it's my fault there's idiots in the universe, huh? That's my fault. So the idiot thinks he can bend light with a magnet. That's my fault. He thinks Tesla is God. That's my fault. I have to somehow rise above that somehow. I have some obligation to do what besides saying that's not my theory, retard. I mean, it's a one-page doc. I mean, it's, you know, it's a document you can read in 10 fucking goddamn minutes, and that's too much of a burden for you to take it on its face value, you stupid cunt. I'm playing a hell of a lot more developed than Emendums. Well, again, says you. Oh, the last one is a familiar quote. The advanced Mercury's perihelion 43 century is due to the sun's revolution around the center mass of the solar system and not the curvature of space-time around the sun. Einstein's erroneously asserts. But of course, Amendum's is different, right? I don't really care. I mean, this minutia means absolutely nothing to me. Obviously, there's a force. Okay, that's been known of since Newton's time, and the fact that there are subtle influences on the force of gravity should be news to no one. This is another added benefit I have of my theory. You know, is the whole fucking the spiral shape of galaxies. You know, where they have that little fringe hanging off of the back end. Yeah, I think my theory is going to explain that shithead. So that'll be another win for me. I'll explain why galaxies are shaped that fucking way. Something else that hasn't been explained by any of your bullshit physics, has it? Has your bullshit bent space nonsense explained that? No. Alright, and has all the math to prove it. All the evidence is totally different than any other anti-relativity crank theory, right? Again, you don't understand you don't understand the difference between somebody interpreting something and a relationship existing. Okay, math is about the relationships. Okay, the relationships between, again, these entities that we all know exist. There is no such thing as the bent space-time variable. It doesn't exist as a reality. It only exists as a relationship between mass and velocity and force. And the force is, of course, invented in your theory. Your theory is space-time has a whole pile of energy and it will push galaxies into galaxies. The magic space-time will do it. No force required, no energy required. Though everything else requires energy, that doesn't. I was going to display a list of cranks for Wikipedia here. Again, who cares? Wikipedia is, as a source, all right? 50-50. From which Amendum ticks off, like I said, the other website, the Stack, whatever it's called, where they have the physics questions, has a much better debate than anything you'll find on Wikipedia. From which Amendum ticks off almost every single mark, but I've decided against it. I don't even understand what that says. With all that said, I still somehow enjoy these videos. Well, you can go fuck yourself until you're really thoroughly motherfucking dead. You haven't made a decent argument yet. You just keep pulling the same crap over and over again. Here's a piece of minutia. Let's just discount all the facts that this thing ties together, and I'll just keep throwing these little minutia ribbons out and saying, well, will you please explain, like my shoelace is a little tattered, and how come it's not, the tattering hasn't weakened the lace exactly proportional to the amount of magnetic energy coming from the force and the photons and the gravitons? No, I'm not doing that, shithead. You're just such a cunt. You don't impose this standard on your own little precious Einstein and Feynman or any other one of these other fucking cunts, the HLC little gods. You don't impose these standards on them. You don't force them to explain a motherfucking thing. They just say something like dark matter did it, and you fall right for it. You stupid shit. Alright. Next. Yeah, obviously I'll have to make 2 separate videos. Told to Pyro, in terms of your emphatic, I know these things to be true and you cannot dispute them, well then you're probably not going to listen well enough to understand anything. These videos are laced with so much hypocrisy, it's really incredible. Again, how is it hypocrisy for me to say, go ahead, make your assertion, say that you can prove light is a wave. He's saying he proved it. He's saying it's beyond reasonable doubt. I'm saying, how is it beyond reasonable doubt? Because I thoroughly doubt it. There's nothing I see in the evidence that demonstrates it has to be a wave. So how am I being the hypocrite? I'm not asking anybody to say, hey, Gary, you said light does this. You said magnets are polarized. You just said it. It's not because it makes sense. I didn't provide you with a reason why this would explain the inverse square force of magnetism and give you a source of the strength of magnetism. It either does that or it doesn't do that. You don't think it's consistent with the evidence. I think it's consistent with all the evidence. It's perfectly reasonable. The two things were similar right from the start anyway. Anyway, what do you think that quote from Amendum was? Are you dense? That was just hypocrisy. Hello, anyone there? I can continue to quote if you want. Continue towards Pyrrho. Is that it? There is no possible other way to describe the phenomenon of light, and if anyone tries to do that, they're wrong, and they should be derided. And well, that's what I said. That Emendum is making these quotes towards other people when they are even more valid when reflected back on himself. Well, again, you can say that, and you're just saying that. I'm just saying I think Pyrrho's certainly tied himself up in a perfect idiot ribbon. He has said things that are preposterous. His drawing was inane and simplistic and imbecilic. He doesn't even correctly describe the phenomenon, and then he backslides all over the place. One minute he says it's a wave, and the next minute he calls it diffraction. One minute it's interference pattern, next minute it's a diffraction pattern. I mean, it's absolute incoherent babble. So I can prove you wrong here. In terms of him refuting and listening, picking up and choosing what evidence he deems to be based on whatever or not it fits with his theory. Well, again, where show me one piece in my document, show me one place where I've done that. One. Show me the list where I wrongly described what a photon is by what we know to be true. Show me. You're just such a cheater. Refusing to believe anything else besides it is valid. In terms of your emphatic, again, I don't know why you have to quote things in the middle of a comment. It just makes it more complicated. Well, then you're probably not going to blah, blah, blah. Simple. You don't really know why you bother with this shit. I need to remind myself not to, right? As a matter of fact. That's right. Why don't you just go the fuck away, you fucking cunt? Quit listening to my videos. Quit watching them. You obviously have no integrity or decency as a human being. You're just a useless sack of shit. So why don't you just fuck the fuck off? I mean, really, I wish blocking worked, because yeah, then I'd just block all you fuckers, but it really doesn't do any good, so I don't bother. But you have no right. You're just rude, obnoxious pieces of shit that just keep talking out of your motherfucking asses. I just sit there and plead for you to actually quote something in my document that's inaccurate, and you won't do it because you're pussies. You're fucking little Weasley pussies. Posted some more comments on Pyrrho's video, quoting you directly from this video. Yeah, okay, I'll get to those. I see the constant evidence that your opposition hasn't generally tried to understand this theory. Well, that's so true. I don't really like some of the things you say, though. Nanomaterial scaled version of measured. I don't know if that's very useful. But there is so many ways to, you start messing with light, even your own shadows. You start looking at your own shadow, and the fact that it blurs into nothing, but it seems to like cover. It's like light spaces end up getting dark by how you move the target, but that's the whole the projection thing is what screws up this whole thing. The two-slit experiment is a projection. It's got to be understood as a projection. Alright, so I think I'll make a separate video, or maybe I'll do Holiday. Oh, I don't know. What to do next? Yeah, maybe I'll just keep this as we'll just leave this as a comment video, and then I'll do a separate video on the other two subjects. Holiday made a video, and it just kind of messed up the subject of. I mean, it's a simple analogies, right? I mean, either the dancing one, okay? If you're dancing, and then I ask you to move, you're gonna not dance as fast. Or I can just do it with the speed of light. I can just say, if you're theoretically made of energy, if I move your matter the speed of light, then obviously the energy in there somehow would end up moving faster than the speed of light, and that would be a problem. And so you can just sort of understand it in that sense, that you're somehow going to have to get rid of all the stuff going this way and this way. If you're moving the speed of light, there's no time to do this up and down crap anymore, is there? And there's certainly not enough time to go the wrong way anymore, is there? No, there really isn't. There's no way to sustain an orbit and move something the speed of light. And so it just kind of becomes obvious, in my opinion. I mean, anybody with any kind of reason, if you believe E equals mc squared, and you understand that matter doesn't convert energy into some kind of salt, what do you think really happens? You think the energy, the photons go in and they turn into something else, and that something else doesn't have to obey these rules? Then you're mistaken, I think. Yes, I think you've made a mistake if that's what you think. So anyway, I mean, hopefully they try to turn it into something that you can somehow migrate across, like somehow the matter still stays intact. It retains all of its old integrity as it moves, and it just doesn't. If you move a tornado fast enough, I think the tornado stops being a tornado. Or hurricane. Well, I'm going to use hurricanes as an example because I think it's a good example. But I'll get to that. But like I said, I could use a fish. I could use so many things. But you have to understand this stuff can't move at variable speed. So there's even something like an ellipse wouldn't work in a sense because it can't go faster at the other end. Anyway. So anything it's doing that's irregular would have to result in movement, because movement is the only way to fix the imbalance. You can't fix it by going faster. If the Earth didn't go faster as it got nearer to the Sun in its orbit, then this solar system would have to move, because that's the only way to get rid of the problem created by that eccentricity. Anyway, maybe I'm just too stupid for this conversation. Quite obviously. Especially this fucking ignorant troll. But anyway, till next time. Soon. Such.